So, if you are seeing this video, this is definitely coming from that other video um, that I posted on my main platform or YouTube. I'm in the middle of babysitting, so I apologize if there's background noise. Um, the little one that I'm taking care of has special needs, and so there's little noises with that, and yeah, and also they like to throw things here and there. So there you go. I just had something thrown at me. Luckily, it was soft. Um, but yeah, I do this video just so that I can kind of talk about some things dealing with my life, such as depersonalization and depression. This is probably going to be the first ever video for this platform. And in truth, I'm not at my best today. I am hanging in there. Honestly, I just want to disappear because of how I'm feeling and just with everything going on. And in my main website, I talk about how my main website, I have a bunch of websites, I'm sorry. But taking a deep breath because I'm just trying to navigate what I'm feeling. But one of my vlogs, I talk about having to leave filmmaking for a while because of things being bad. And in that video where I break down, I kind of explain why, that things are bad. And I do a video like that because there have been other videos that I've seen similar to mine that have gotten me through bad days where somebody is in the middle of a breakdown, whether it is they're homeless or they've gone through something truly terrible. And I just wanted to take time to thank those people, if this ever gets viral, I don't know, for doing those videos, because you don't know the kind of impact you're making. I mean, with content like that, you kind of help us to survive the unbearable, and I know that when I was breaking down like that, I just felt like everything was unbearable. And yeah, I'm just taking pauses here and there because I'm trying not to get to places in my mind where I may say something and it's really dark or whatever. And so for me, I just feel like I'm like keeping above water. Like I'm drowning, but I'm trying to keep my head above the surface, if that makes sense. Also, I'm sorry, my wording is, the way that I speak, it's not great. I've had trouble like this since I was a child, and I did try to do a speech therapy video online to address my speaking problems. And there was one video that I did that dealt with recalling words from different groups. So, think of words that deal with the hospital or medical or medicine. Think of words that deal with animals and whatever. And after I did that, it was like I could find words, I could stitch my sentences better. And I asked ChatGPT why this may be the case. Sorry, the little one's moving. I asked ChatGPT why this may be the case. And I did mention how this might deal with dissociative disorders. I grew up with a few dissociative disorders. The one major one is dissociative identity disorder, so I grew up with that. So they did explain to it very well why living in a constant dissociative state may impact speech and the brain. And I know that's not everybody, and that's not every dissociative disorder sufferer out there, but I know with my case it makes sense because I do want to speak well. I do try to speak well, but it's like my brain will feel challenged. Um, and of course, I've grown up under severe fear, so that impacted being bold about um, how to talk. And I grew up really fawning a lot, and to fawn, um, what it is, sorry, honey. No, that's not the word. Yeah, fawn. No, 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 no. Trauma. Yeah, fawn definition trauma. So the fawn response is a pattern of behavior characterized by excessive people-pleasing, self-sacrifice, and avoidance of conflict. Individuals exhibiting this response may prioritize the needs and desires of others over their own, often at the expense of their well-being. So that's how I grew up. I look back and that was me in childhood because of growing under fear, growing under fear, severe fear being leadership, if that makes sense. Just being under a fearful household in a way. The fawn response can have a significant impact on an individual's life, leading to relationship difficulties, yep. Low self-esteem, yep. Difficulties setting boundaries, yep. Burnout and exhaustion, yep. An increased risk of codependency. Yep, all those things I've experienced. But yeah, so when it comes to my speech is not the greatest. So I remember I was at my very first film panel for a film premiere of something that I did, and there was one moment I did struggle with my wording in front of all the people in the room, but I did do my best to get myself back to speaking. But yeah, I guess that's kind of what I want to say, is that if you do notice me not really speaking well or failing to put my sentences together, it's because of this, and I'm realizing that I do want to take some speech therapy classes to fix up the way that I speak. With depersonalization, I would say that the rating for today is at a 7 or 8 out of 10. It was raining. I know I'm going to forget my crying episode because everything felt like a blur. And when things are bad like that, I can disassociate pretty bad, or the depersonalization can be very painful or uncomfortable. I think I feel more depressed than I do feel depersonalized because I'm able to be present, and I'm a little bit surprised. But I do want to talk a little bit about how I got depersonalization real quickly. Or I might make that for or I might do a different video with that because it's really long. But I did get it briefly. I did get it in 2022, and it was the worst thing to ever happen to me, aside from my sexual assault as a child. But those two are by far the worst ever things that have ever happened to me. Because when I had it, it just really felt like my whole life ended. And for 3 months, I lived in severe fear. And I was extremely suicidal at this point. And I didn't think that I would make it out of 2022 I thought that I was going to die by my own hands because of how painful living with depersonalization was, and it impacted a lot of things. It really alarmed my family. I stopped eating. I lost a lot of weight during that period. I just did not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get emotional, but every time I talk about that period, it was very painful. And I'm a filmmaker, so I've had to stop. I've had to put a cap on filmmaking for a while. Because of how bad things are. I'm sorry. I don't like that I'm crying. It's just that when I think about like my journey as a filmmaker, even during 2022, because I was making films then, even through the depersonalization. It's like things from then, it's like things have gone downhill since 2022. And I've been really struggling personally with happiness, my sense of happiness. I've been saying to myself, I feel like happiness died in 2022 for me, because when depersonalization hit, it destroyed a lot of things for me. I no longer have connection to my body the way that I did. I don't want this video to turn into a pity party video, because I really don't want people to like jump through the hoops for me or anything, but I guess I document this because I do want other depersonalization sufferers to not feel alone. I'm part of the groups, and I'm part of a bunch of online groups, depersonalization, derealization groups, and the posts are very heartbreaking because they kind of echo my suffering. That's the little one throwing things. And so, there you go. You can go get your toy you're throwing around. I'll get it for you. Here you go. Are you bored with the show? So I was just talking to the little one just now. And so I just want now that's me fumbling with my phone. I was just saying that I want other depersonalization sufferers to not feel alone, especially if you've lost your sense of happiness as well as a result of dealing with this. And even my derealization sufferers, that's hard. I've had derealization before, and leaving the house was it was really, really excruciating to just go anywhere. And I know some people become agoraphobic as a result of dealing with derealization. And so I'm watching the little one. He's playing with something that don't... Okay, only one, because I don't know what you're going to do with the other one. Okay. So I have no connection with my body. I'm glad I can get back to control. And I guess I started to break down when I thought about my filmmaking journey, because it's just been going downhill ever since. And it's like, no matter how much I try, there's been different forces just coming up and just keeping me down. And I kid you not, I was on the brink of doing one of my projects, and then something came up that deals with family that just killed off any hope for this being filmed in a way that would have worked. And it just had me thinking that I've got to take a step back in order to fix things in my life so that I can get out and live my own life, and just to be in a space where I feel safe for sure, and my dreams can feel supported rather than ignored, you know. And the disturbing thing is that when the dreams are doing really well, I've witnessed this real time, and I just suddenly thought to myself, whoa. But like when they're doing really well, that's when there's like, it's paid attention to. You know, it's suddenly like, oh wow, like I didn't know that you were, or like this is amazing, wow, go for it. But then in the process, it's attacked so bad. And I just think to myself that, you know, yeah, I gotta be more practical moving forward, and I do want to keep my dreams safe or to myself. I mean, I do this video, and like, of course, people now know, but like, just when I'm around close ones, I tend to be quiet about what I do. And yeah, so I'm not doing, I'm not stepping back just because it's fun, or, you know, I'm trying to derail people or even myself, but just because things have been bad for a while. And today, like, I'm in survival mode. And yeah, so with depersonalization, when I was filming one of my series, I was in a horrible depersonalized state, and I was filming the lands at the time. And I kid you not, after I had done filming for that, things got worse. That's when I fell into the suicidal period that I was in, and I stopped eating. And I feel like when it comes to careful, when it comes to things like that, and by the way, with the little one, they're very close to me. They have a bed they lie on, so like, they're just playing, you know. But I feel like with things like that, you know, if things are really bad to where like you break down like I did, I think that's when you need to take a step back and just get away from things. Because the thing that I hate though is like when you're in at work, or like with fame, and like this is from my observance of famous people or celebrities. But when they're having a breakdown, no one takes them seriously, or people really put pressure on them to just keep going or keep like showing up, despite them wanting to die inside. And there is a musician by the name of Dalida, who was a very famous musician from France, and she ended up taking her life years later. And you know, she was extremely famous, and beautiful. And all the time I'd seen these different clips of her and the pictures, and there's one interview a couple years before her death where she looked like she was glowing. And you would have never have known looking at her, because, you know, she looked amazing and she was really faking her smile. But like, her story resonates with me because a lot of the times I feel like before she died, she wrote that life has become unbearable for me. That was the note that she left before taking her own life. And I resonate with that because life for me is unbearable sometimes. And so, like, when I think about her, when I first discovered her, it was like, despite being very famous, it was like I found a mirror. And I don't mean to sound so bad. I'm so sorry. But it's like I found somebody that kind of reminded me of myself because I do like to look beautiful. Here you go, honey. Is that what you wanted? What are you doing with the belts? Is this boring? Here, let me change. Let's go to regular show because I think you like that better. You like regular show. Okay. What you doing? Okay. So, I guess the little one's playing with some toys and, okay, you only wanted one? So why did you want, okay. Also, let me fix the back for you. There's something poking out. Sorry. I'm really sorry. I know. Oh, you're so cutie. You're so cutie. So also give me a quick moment. I'm gonna lightly cover the little one. Here you go, honey. Okay, I'll bring the other one for you. So, whenever I cry, I'm sorry, guys. I just, again, I don't like to do that because, yeah. But I was talking about the musician Dalida and how finding her was like finding a mirror because just even that note that she wrote, and I really resonated with that note because I feel like that's how life's been for me. And like, I've been trying to find strength in making these films and my projects, but just feeling crushed at the same time. And the one saving grace is like my workplace. Here you go, sweetie. There you go. The one saving grace is this year has been my workplace's neighborhood. And I was having another terrible day within this week. And going into that neighborhood, the people there are so nice. And I was on my way on my electric scooter while I was feeling so low. And I had to stop because I was crying on the way to work. And I just told myself, hey, you know, like, just stop, just take this break. And it was in a very like quiet part of the neighborhood. And so like one person passed by me and I'm like, I'm that person now that people pass by in the street crying. Like just the one weird person crying. And they didn't do anything, of course. I mean, they were minding their business. But and then I got back on my scooter and I got back into my neighborhood and I felt a change because the neighborhood that I stay in is really troubled. And so getting into my workplace's neighborhood, I could feel just a lot of that darkness coming off of me from my neighborhood. And there was this woman that I passed by, and she gave me a really amazing smile. And a lot of them will do that in a certain part that I take my scooter through. Like there's a certain street that I take through the nice neighborhood. And I've received a lot of beautiful smiles and interactions. And there was a woman walking her dog. And I passed by her and she had a beautiful smile on her face towards me. And I guess I'm thankful for that because it really helped. And it was a reminder of the neighborhood in all. It's so nice. It's so beautiful. And it's like my little place of escape when it compared to home and my neighborhood at home. My job too has been a dream job in terms of like who I'm a caregiver. So my client is a very nice person, very beautiful all the time and sweet. It's right near the north. Well, I was about to reveal where I am by saying the name of the university. But I don't want to, I've already said a little bit of it. But I guess I may say the name because then you'll figure out the neighborhood. But it's right near the Northwestern campus. And the campus itself is gorgeous. Parts of it remind me of Harry Potter. And it's always so nice to see the students walking by and people just taking a walk by the area. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for just finding that shelter amidst the bad. And even on a depersonalized day, being there feels wonderful because I just feel positive. With my home life, it isn't the greatest. My family, each of us have struggled in their own way, my direct family, but I've grown up with a lot of trauma and just having to deal with so much. And a big part of this is just how my sexual assault has impacted my overall mindset and my mental health, and how my sexual assault has been treated like a once or done thing. Yeah, I don't lie when I say that. It's like every time it's brought up, it's discussed about for like 1 or 2 minutes and then eradicated. Like, okay, no more talking about it. I got into a heated argument recently with a family member. And just when I argued that, hey, I've been sexually assaulted and no one talks about this, the family member proceeded to ask me in a very harsh way, well, who did it then? Who did it? Do you know? And unfortunately, I don't know who did this to me. Like, my body remembers and I have vague memory, but I ended up disassociating from the event entirely. So I have no complete memory, which I understand because it makes me wonder too. I've doubted myself in the past too about whether it went down, but I'm absolutely certain because over time I have seen various symptoms with my body pop up when it comes to sexual assault. I have vague memory of being held down by 2 people. I don't know if they were the perpetrators, but I do remember being held down. And then I have one memory of the bathroom. Like, that's another vague memory that comes up, but it's completely blacked out. So I don't know if these perpetrators held me down or if the scenario took place in a bathroom. I don't know, but I know I mentioned the bathroom because I have a lot of fear when I talk about that memory. I feel a lot of fear when I mention that memory. Um, and so I have to do a lot of work and um, with that. And I've watched myself lose out on a lot of opportunities because um, of poor mental health, and my relationships have never been good. They've all been bad. Um, um, I've the longest I've ever been in a relationship was probably a few days, guys. That's how bad it was, because it would be like wounds from the past would pop up and just derail that from ever happening. And I would not look like a good person. I wasn't a good person growing up. um, I wasn't a good kid. I'll say that honestly. um, I the change came around middle school and then my teens, but I know that I displayed a lot of things that were troubling. And I look back and I realize that these were trauma responses. These were responses to the different things that happened to me. The one thing that I'm very grateful and thankful for is during this time, during this period of taking a step back, I have found courses that can help break cycles for me when it comes to the things that I've been through. I found a complete free course in psychology, and it's up to, I think, 60 plus hours. There's a lot of hours going into it, and it does. Um, it explains. It's like you're going to university, so it does introduce you to psychology, and it will make you more aware of the field of psychology. I also have a course in. It's called It's a course in specialized counseling. It isn't long, but it is a couple hours. I think maybe 20 or less hours. Um, and it is helping to introduce counseling elements. So working with people and how to counsel them, especially I think, in a professional setting. There's also another course that I want to purchase at the time of making this video, and it is child development. And I think it's child development and safety. I do want to be able to learn a lot more about the brain of a child. The brain, yeah, well, yeah, the mind and the mindset and the brain, or the brain development of a child or baby. And further down the line, I want to learn more about how trauma affects the childhood brain, so that it can help people. And with a system of love, this platform, my purpose is to help people that are in my shoes and even younger. The dream would be to work with traumatized children, for sure. That would be a dream come true for me, is just to create programs and writings, or even write a book for traumatized children, just to help them cope with some of the worst things that have happened to them. I want to help sexual assault victims a lot. I want to be able to get in touch with the DID community way better. I have a soft heart for the DID community. I did have an awesome interaction with one. I'm trying not to get emotional because what they said to me was so sweet. I've since healed from DID. I've since integrated, but I do have a soft heart for the others that still have it. But I said something that was so nice. I wrote something that was comforting them because they were going through something. And this was part of an online group. And they said, "Oh, what you wrote comforted my littles, the other parts of them." or the other alters, or people would refer to personalities. But littles are actually versions or alters that are kind of childlike in a DID person or system. And a system refers to a individual that has DID because they have more than one being, if that makes sense, representing them. So therefore, they're a system. And so they wrote that to me, and I thought that was the sweetest thing ever, that they had written something like that to me, because I was glad to bring comfort to them and their system. But I guess that's going to be my mission, is while on break with filmmaking, I am going to kind of zero in on my academics. There's other things I'm studying, and really work to helping people. I was going to say that for anyone that's followed me on my filmmaking page, I am going to be developing my projects in secret. I still have so many ideas. My vampire project is not completely dead. I want to work on it book form, for it and its spin-off series. And I, through the book form, I do want to be able to establish some worlds. It is very dark. I will say that this series, there's things that I'll be putting into it that deal a lot with trauma and sexual assault, how it impacts the mind, how it impacts, functioning and reasoning, and you needing to function and reason in a very stressful scenario, how that goes down. There is darkness in terms of just dealing with vampires, but it's very heavy. And for example, there is a character that I want to really work on soon, but there is a major character. So there's a bunch of major characters. One of them is a leader of an entire, so the world is hunters versus vampires, and one of the major characters is a leader of an entire hunting system within a nation, right, if that makes sense. So he's a major leader, to just put it simply. And in his past, he grew up in a atmosphere that was deeply abusive. There was all kinds of abuse going down. There was sexual abuse, there's physical abuse, and there's emotional abuse, there's neglect, there's different things going down in where he was raised. And he's raised under a religious atmosphere. So it's religious people that look after him and others like him. And so he's a hunter, and he's supposed to train to become the best hunter, to hunt down these vampires, right? But in the process of becoming an absolute and an amazing or elite hunter, he is broken terribly. He's subject to racism too, because he's a black character, and he becomes a major leader. But at his time, at this place that he was raised at, he experienced racism, slight racism, along with other people of color that were there. And there are Caucasian people with him, or kids, because he's a kid then, that all of them experience abuse, all of them. So his best friend growing up, his best friend is Caucasian, and he experiences suicide at a young age. He showcases suicidal feelings and symptoms at a very young age. And so this major character sees that, and his goal is to make sure to defend and to protect his best friend, especially because he knows that with the leadership that's looking after them, they do not like weakness. They don't like seeing that. And he's afraid that they may become even more harsh in discipline if they notice that he is showcasing signs and symptoms of depression and suicide. So, throughout the years, this friend of his is also a hunter and proves himself to be an incredible hunter too. There's a lot of fighting that will go into my series. There's a lot of martial arts, but he becomes really good at faking it until one day it it's not it doesn't end well. So I've already spoiled it, I've already spoiled it for you guys, but it's supposed to be really, really sad, because those events and the loss of that my character's best friend, um, still haunts him throughout the years because he worked so hard to protect his best friend, but his best friend was suicidal even throughout the years. And I've seen different posts from people that have written things like, I have experienced suicidal feelings since I was a child and I still live with them, but hey, you just still keep going and you still keep living. You still keep, doing the best that you can. And my heart goes out to these people because they don't want to feel like that, but they've been feeling like that forever. I guess I give tribute to a guy that I found that I thought was beautiful and I could see myself going out with. Um, and I actually did meet someone like him that's no longer here. Um, we didn't date, but he became a close friend of mine. He was going through a lot. He had been through so much. And he didn't take himself out. Somebody ended up, killing him. But I remember when meeting my friend, he had cut scars on his arm. Sorry for the graphic details for everything. He had cut marks on his arm or arms. And I remember meeting him in person, and he was going through a tough time during then. But I remember noticing this on his arms, and I took his arm, and I was holding it, and I was just like, what happened, And I was just thinking to myself, I was looking at his scars, and I'm mad because I wish that, I don't mean to sound like this, I can be very compassionate, but he was a close friend of mine. But I wish I could have kissed those scars for him. That's what was coming to my mind then, was just this feeling of like, wow, I'm sorry. Um, and he was close to me. And I remember being on the phone with him. One night, he was having a very terrible night. And he was crying throughout that night. And it was throughout the night, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I remember just hearing him cry on the phone and break down, and I'm mad because I kind of wish that I had done more. And I used to tell myself that I would never be mad if he called. I was ready for the next call, and I was tired, but I was ready for the next call. And, I remember he'd go a while without speaking, and then he'd text me, and I'd be so happy to hear from him, and he'd say, I miss you, And so I'm close with his mom. His mom is a good friend of mine. And his mom is like an angel. She's so sweet. And I feel for her. And how I became close to his mom is through his death. But I remember talking to him and even meeting him for the first time. And he was going through a lot. Then when I first met him, he was trying to beat his addiction. And I knew by talking to his mom, I knew why he had grown close to these addictions, because of the terrible things he had experienced as a child. And I talk about wanting to help people, especially traumatized children, so that they can overcome these things, you know. I'm so thankful that I met my friend. And so I was talking about the guy that I found on YouTube that had similar scars, and they were etched into his arm, and they weren't bleeding or anything. They were healed, just like my friends. They were healed, but you could see the cut scars. And this brave guy was talking about how he had been to he said he was very suicidal. So this is a guy that is really, I think this is one of the worst cases that I found or have ever heard of. But he had been in the hospital, like, I think it was 70 times within that year, that whole year. He was talking about being in the hospital at least, maybe, was it 30, 40, 50, 50? It was high, but I think it was 50 to 70. Like, it was a lot. Like, he'd been to the ER many times. And so I was so shocked listening to his story. But he was so brave. He was just talking about how he had struggled with this throughout. And I said to myself that those cut scars are probably proof of what he's had to deal with all his life, you know. And so I said to myself, I'm like, he's a very beautiful young guy. I mean, and yeah, I could see myself seeing someone like that, because we're both broken. um, and so, you know, but I know that wouldn't be the answer. Love isn't the answer to trauma, you know. You need help. You need to get the professional help that's out there. You need to see proper therapists, and if needed, maybe get on medication if things are so bad. But I hope to find that video, because what I will do is post that video and give like a heartfelt shout out to that guy. The only devastating thing about this with that video is I don't know if that guy survived dealing with living with, you know, those thoughts and feelings, because that video at the time I was watching that video, it was like it was made a year or 2 years ago, within that year that I was watching it. And so I think other commenters were saying that they were hoping that he was okay. And my hope, I'm hanging on to this. I'm hoping that he's still alive. No matter what, I'm still going to give him a shout out on my platform, because I thought that it was very brave for him to talk about these things. And for my men that are sufferers out there that have cut scars and are dealing with severe depression, it's not a bad thing to cry. I know that I began to break down when I thought of my friend. But I guess I'm feeling kind of sensitive, and there's some things that make you feel sensitive on TV. But with a guy's feelings, don't dismiss that. You know, please don't demonize yourselves for feeling bad or needing to cry. Because I think about my friends crying. And I'm trying to stay in control. And I think about boys in general when they're young. I'm trying to keep it together, because I'm going to be talking about I think he's a therapist. I don't know what he is. I put information to a video he did on limerence on one of my videos in, I think it's the the part 2 of why I'm leaving filmmaking. And I put the link to his video, to that video. In that video, he was talking about his childhood and being a little boy and dealing with trauma in a very toxic and very abusive household. And he was talking about how he would go to different things and I think he found himself at a gym, and he met a lady that was older, and she was, I think, a young adult, and he was really young. And he talked about how when he met that lady, he felt safe, and he'd felt like he'd found security and safety compared to his home. But as he was explaining his story, I remember doing the dishes while listening to his story and crying, because I envisioned a little boy just wandering around, looking for safety and shelter. And so, to all my traumatized men, because I think about my friend. His name was Billy. I think about his injured child, and the little boy that broken little boy that was still there. And how a lot of men, and there's another person that I know that has been through things, and I've thought about his childhood too, and how when you grow up, when you're a man, it's very easy for the world to get to you and to make you feel like you have to be super strong and brave, and to man up when dealing with crippling, terrible things inside, and even crippling heartbreak, if you need to cry, do cry. I keep thinking I have my glasses on. I wear them all the time. But if you do need to cry, do cry. The little one that I'm taking care of is a little boy. And his pain is valid. His tears are valid. His smile smelt my heart. Honey, what are you playing with? And there is this scene in Despicable Me. I don't know where the main character, there's something that he went through as a child, where the girls or the kids were bullying him. I think because of how he looked, or he liked one of the girls, and it was so sad. And I thought to myself, there's a broken little boy there, even though it's fictional. It's like, it's really hard to see that. And I know that it would be an honor to counsel broken boys, or broken little boys and broken teen boys, and even men. I've thought about getting into that, because I've interacted with male domestic violence victims. They're out there. I care so much about my female domestic violence victims. There's a couple programs here in Chicago that I've been thinking about volunteering at. I've made friends with female domestic violence victims. It's hard for both. It's just hard to hear stories from both groups. And so there's that, and but I have to fix myself. I have to get through my own mountains and my own hurdles. And I say that I'm walking away from major filmmaking, but I was gonna give Dalida a little mini film for next year. Just a mini something. And she's France's national treasure. And so I wouldn't, there's been already films done by them for her, and I saw clips, and one clip made me cry. I thought about just doing a little ultra mini tribute for her. And my heart goes out to people like her that are in huge spaces, that are in big spaces, and don't have room to cry, and feel like life is unbearable. It's so hard to believe that sometimes because of big people being surrounded by fame and money, but it's unfair for me to say that because it is true. There is a guy that I want to write about that, was another person that ended their lives and he was pretty big in his right, if that makes sense. His name is Lee Thompson Young. He was a Disney Channel star, and he went on to do other shows. And there is a YouTube channel that I followed that did a tribute for him, and I'm tearing up because the way that they were talking about him was the most compassionate, very kind, and they were mentioning his family, where he grew up, his aspirations as a child. And that channel, they talk about deceased stars in Hollywood, and what they struggled with. But I said to myself, wow, this person that's narrating, they're very, very nice. If that ever happened to me, if I was big, I'd want this channel to cover me because they're so nice. But they're so kind, and listening to that video was so hard for me because I was thinking about him, and then what made it worse was reading the comments. Some of the people had actually met him. I think one or two had met Lee Thompson Young, and they said that he was a very, very nice person. So that did not make anything better. And I remember growing up seeing him on TV as a kid, and now as an adult, it's like, wow, I didn't know that, but I'm going through things, and I wish he was transparent, but he didn't like to talk about his mental health because he didn't want to feel like a burden. But my film platform, while I'm on break, I do want to be able to talk about these stories with certain celebs and what they went through for the better, just like that channel did. And I will give a link to that channel. I will put a link to them, and yeah, I kind of want to follow suit with my film platform. That's how nice I want to be when I talk about other celebrities, especially hurting celebrities. Because I say that he was the kindest, because there are other videos that do the same thing, but they're not as kind. It's more about the story and the hype behind a person's death. Whereas this one took the time to talk about his family, and it's like another channel that I want to highlight too. They're called Crime A to Z, and they are by far the most compassionate crime channel I've ever found on YouTube. because other crime channels, they talk about the murders, famous murders, and the victims. So many YouTubers and YouTube channels dedicated to talking about murder and really highlighting it in a way that's fun, and it's never fun. I mean, they're victims. They're people that, these victims, they died, you know, in a terrible way. Or I just don't like that hype. Like, there's even makeup, how, you know, get ready with me videos, and they're talking about dead people and these victims. And I think, to me, I find those videos just terrible. But Crime A to Z, they've explained, while before getting into a video, they will say, oh, you know, while we were making this video, it was hard for us because we cried, you know. We really felt for the victims. So to the family members of these victims, we see you, we hear you, you know, we are with you, you know. And so I'm still with that channel. And when I think about what I want to do at my platform, and highlighting even abuse victims, that deceased and living, or murder victims, I think about them. I think about Crime A to Z. And I've even said to myself, if I was lucky, and if I worked hard, or if I had a better mental headspace, that's a channel that I'd be working with, because they are very compassionate to these families and these victims. And it's like with the Ed Gein, I heard, and somebody on the Chicago News, it was not Chicago News, it was a reporter or interviewer, said this about the Ed Gein monster series versus the Gacy one, that's about the John Wayne Gacy one that's about to come out. And he said, you know, with the Ed Gein, they're making it about him, you know, and all of that. But with this one, with this John Wayne Gacy series, they're thinking about the victims. It's more about these victims. And I saw a trailer for it, and it was touching, because they were showing the different victims before they died. And I think that's how I would do a series, is I wouldn't be concentrating on the murderer. There's nothing to celebrate about the murder. That's not something to be excited about, you know, especially with Ed Gein's story. I read about what he did, and it was truly terrible. And the first thing that I thought about was the victims and their families. I wasn't thinking about Ed Gein. I was thinking about the impact it had on the families. But I guess that's Hollywood for you, you know. But no, there's part of Hollywood, the good people. Excuse me. They did the Gacy series, and so I got to remember them. I got to remember the good ones, because I know that I've been kind of going off a little bit about Hollywood as a filmmaker. I don't mean to get off subject with this video, but I remember the good ones. So I think I might see this series. But in the meantime, or in the end, I'm all done, and I hope this video could bring some sort of comfort to people, and a bit more clarity. I do want to do more ASOL, or that's just my platform, my mental health platform, shortened ASOL, or System of Love. But I do want to do more videos for it. But it will be a while, because I do want to get certified first through my mental health platforms, and then from then on to go on to do videos that can help people cope, or people heal, and so on. So thank you so much. Wish me luck. I will be studying, and I still will be posting content. I probably will try to do soothing videos, not with me talking, but just these are relaxation videos. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye and take care.